Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our YELP graduation. I'm so excited that you were all able to join us tonight. Thank you to the parents, their teachers, their mentors, the people that have helped work with them this year, our sponsors for making this program happen. We're all really excited you could join us tonight to celebrate these amazing leaders in our community. YELP is an environmental leadership program for students across the 100 miles of our coast, where they get introduced to the wonders, the uniqueness, the history of this place we call home, as well as teaching them the skills for them to be advocates in their own communities that they all live in. So I would really like for you all to meet the students. So I'm going to have the YELP students introduce themselves to you all.
Hi, my name is Kate Bossler, and I'm a junior at Islands High School in Savannah, Georgia. And my favorite memory would definitely be when we went to Sapelo Island and went bike riding all around the island.
Hi, my name is Kylie. I'm a senior and I go to Brunswick High School. My favorite memory was probably our first meeting when we did like the team building and leadership exercises. It was really fun and we got to know everybody.
Hi, my name is Mary Webb and I'm a sophomore at Glen Academy. And my favorite memory was probably the Okefenokee trip, and we got to see the unique wildlife and learn the history about it as well.
Hello, everyone. My name is Griffin Lee, and I'm from St. Simon's Island. I'm a junior at Glen Academy, and my favorite memory from this year was also when we took our field trip to the Okefenokee and learned about the land of the trembling earth.
Hi, my name is Lily Kate, and I'm a junior at Glen Academy. And my favorite memory would also either be the Okefenokee trip or the trip to White Oak we took, where we got to see the rhinos and giraffes and all of those animals.
Hi, my name is Annie Berman, and I go to Savannah Country Day School, and I'm a senior. And my favorite memory was the White Oak trip with all the animals also.
Hello, my name's Eva Purdy. I'm a sophomore at Glen Academy, and my favorite memory was also the Okefenokee trip. I really enjoyed getting to see all of the wildlife and getting to have so many discussions with the wonderful people of YELP.
Hi, I'm Caden Williamson. I'm a senior at Camden County High School. My favorite memory was a field trip to Butler Island because we got to learn such a unique history and the impact that island has.
Hi, my name is Rachel Walters, and I am a senior at Glen Academy. And my favorite memory was going to the Chemours mining company. It was really fun.
Hi, I'm Taylor Buffington. I'm from St. Simon's Island. I go to Glen Academy, and I'm a junior there. And I think my favorite memory would have to be our first trip to Skidaway when I got to make a bunch of new friends.
Well, thank you all for introducing yourselves. As you can see, we have a fabulous group of students that have participated in YELP this year. If you have any questions that you want to ask these students, we'll have a portion of that at the end of the program. You can put those questions in the Q&A section at the bottom of your screen, and we'll ask those later on in our program this evening. But now I want to introduce you all to one of the students' mentors that they work closely with this year, as well as our CEO and president of 100 Miles, Megan DeRosiers. Megan, I think you're still muted.
Got it. Sorry. Thank you. Yes, I'm using Zoom just about every day, but I still forget to unmute. Thanks, Stephanie. And thanks, students, for the great introductions and those memories. That YELP this year was a fantastic program. For those of you who don't know, 100 Miles is a coastal conservation nonprofit. We do coastal conservation of Georgia's 100-mile coast through advocacy, education, and citizen engagement. I happen to be the founding executive director. I think I have the luckiest job in the world, but actually the organization is here because of the generations of people who have worked to preserve this place, this 100-mile coast, either through land conservation or wildlife volunteering or scientific research or policy advocacy. No matter what they have chosen to do, this place is special because of the actions that people have taken to protect it and to keep it that way. So I came along with a few others in 2013 because some of those people who have been working for generations recognized that Georgia's coast needed an organization that could both celebrate our coast and the actions that people have taken, but also help be a connector for them and work together so that all the stakeholders know what each other is doing and so that the efforts can be coordinated, and also to plan for the coast's future. So this youth environmental leadership program that we have every year is part of our effort to plan for the future of Georgia's coast. A few years ago, my colleague Catherine and I were talking, we were actually commiserating a little bit about how when we finished school, there was really, you know, even though we were trained in environmental policy or environmental science, there was really no kind of clear path for innovative thinkers to problem solve about the environmental sector. And so when we left school, it was kind of a shock to realize here we had been for years in these programs where there were these great thoughts happening and great discussions about problem solving. But when we actually looked for an employer or for a future for ourselves, we had a hard time finding them. And so that got us to thinking, what if kids today were taught to become problem solvers themselves? That they didn't have to learn it in college, but that they had opportunities before college to think about critical thinking, think about the problems that were facing their homes, the places that they love the most, and also to network with people like them and with people who are in careers, and really to do that all through the context of the lens of the place where they call home. So that's what we've crafted YELP to do, to create young leaders who can enter the world already knowing how to identify a problem and take steps towards solving that problem by working together with others. And they don't have to wait for somebody that they need to learn from. Of course, we want them to learn from people. Of course, we want them to have open minds, but that's not to say that they should wait for those people to show up. We want these people, and we are hoping that we are training our YELP leaders to become leaders themselves from the day they hit the ground. YELP matters to the conservation of Georgia's coast because the people who passed us the torch that we currently carry here at 100 miles and all of the people who are doing the coastal conservation work today, they deserve for us to pass the torch on to others. And these young people that you will see tonight and that you will hear from tonight, who you've already heard a little bit from, they're more worthy to carry the torches forward than anyone else I have met. And I'm so proud and I'm so inspired by them. And I know you will be too. The people they are, the value they hold for each other and for our coast, it is what we need for our future. So I'm going to turn it over to them. But before I do that, of course, the most important part of the evening is to hear from them. But this program would not happen if it were not for our sponsors. And so I would like to give a huge shout out to our sponsors. And they are Chemours, the Adelphia Foundation, Gulfstream, the Phoenix Fund, the Coastal Barrier Island Foundation, and the MK Pentecost Ecology Fund. I really hope you will join me in thanking them for their generous support of the Youth Environmental Leadership Program during this school year. And I hope that they will continue their support in the future, because you will see that this program is so important and it really makes an impact in the lives of these students who are, many of them, really at the precipice, at the beginning of the careers that we hope they will establish for their lifetime. Thank you so much. I'm going to turn it back over to Stephanie, our MC for the evening.
Thank you, Megan. So I want to share a little bit more of what these students actually did during their last year with me and our organization. So we're going to share a couple of the highlights of this fantastic year we had as a group. It really has been a remarkable year. It was being the third year of the program, it has evolved, but this year was extremely special to me. We were able to get back out and do the program as they originally saw fit. We were able to get back out into the field, meet together, make interactions, meet fabulous people along the coastline that they could learn from, and just explore their passions and their love for this place. During the year, we started with an orientation event, but they also went on 6 field trips. They had 8 meetings where they learned skills. They completed and marketed 1 cleanup, and they also came together to work on an action project. So we're going to kind of go through some of these amazing things that they got to do this year. So we did get to start it off with our orientation event up at Skidaway Island State Park. This was a day for the students to meet each other in person, to get to know each other. They also worked on team building and learned what YELP was, as well as what is 100 miles. What is our mission? What are our goals? What do we see them doing over the next year? It also was a time for them to explore what advocacy means to them. And so we did that in many fun ways and throughout the day we spent up there. Each month on the second Wednesday. So thank you, parents, for letting me interrupt dinners on the second Wednesday of every month. Students came together for skill workshops where we had different mentors come in and teach them what they're experts in. So they got to interact with community leaders, famous authors, biologists, as well as our own 100 Miles team. As they learned about how to talk to people in power, how to write your own story for best impact when you're doing an ask, learning about how to make a budget or even write a grant. They also got to hear from about a career panel, about other people in this field in the next step, so they could have a little bit more knowledge of it. So it's been a really fun year. They learned how to make strategic charts and come up with action plans. So they did a lot during these monthly meetings that we had. And then we got to then take those skills into and learn how other people have also used those skills. Our first field trip all the way back in October was to Butler Island. This was a very unique experience in the fact that they got to see an issue that just happened on our coast, where a group of local citizens got together to save and stop the development of Butler Island from a historical site owned by the state, where it almost turned into a brewery. But they got to see how local leaders came together, created the Butler Island Coalition, and get to ask them questions about how that worked. They also got to tour and learn the unique history of this, one of the many special places along our coastline. Their next trip involved how to save a species. So we went down to White Oak Conservation Center, which is in Yulee, Florida, just over the border. And here's a place where they take endangered species and help to repopulate them to introduce them back into the wild. So besides getting to meet some amazing animals and having some really cool experiences, Laura and Indy of White Oak actually taught them about stakeholders. So who do you have to work together? How to identify different partners you're going to work with, even if they're not on the same side of you when you do these large projects, all of the different people you need to work at. And they actually did an activity to really identify all those different stakeholders and how to work within different groups. Next, we headed off to the Okefenokee Swamp. And at 100 miles, it's already a very special place to all of us, but they got to explore it with Becky, a refuge ranger out there, to teach about the unique ways this refuge is maintaining the land for the plants and animals and the unique biodiversity that lives in the Okefenokee. So they got a behind the scenes tour with her, as well as our own Alice Keyes came out to share our work in trying to protect the Okefenokee from a proposed Twin Pines mine. So they got to hear too how we work within our organization when we see an issue arise, how we work to stop it. So they got to learn about the Okefenokee Protection Alliance, as well as getting to see and fall in love with this unique place along our coast. And next one, we were lucky enough to do a real behind the scenes tour of the Chemours heavy mineral mines here in South Georgia. It was a really fun, interesting day. As you can see, safety was the #1 thing. We spent the day in hard hats, safety goggles, masks, and even earplugs for part of the day, but we got to see where these heavy minerals that we all use every day come from, why they're important for us, and how to actually get those minerals in a responsible manner. So we got to learn all about that. So we thank Jim Renner for being our host that day and giving us this really cool perspective of how these minerals come into our lives. And actually, Rachel did say it was her favorite trip of the year. We followed that one up with a trip over to Little St. Simons Island. Scott Coleman, the ecology manager of Little St. Simons, got to share his passion for his job with these students. And they got to learn about the ecology of this magical place, as well as how the island has actually been put into conservatorship and how it's being protected and managed for years to come. And we also got to see some pretty unique wildlife that day. I think we all really enjoyed getting to see the rookery of some nesting the rookery forming for the wading birds out there. And our final trip of the year was just a couple weeks ago. We went over to Sapelo Island. And this was about connecting the past to the present. Sapelo is very unique in the fact that it has the only intact Gullah Geechee community left on our coast. And so we got to learn about that, as well as the current issues facing them and how they're dealing with issues in their community. So it was a small and mighty group, but we did have a lot of fun as we learned about it, climbed a lighthouse, and biked all over the island. So besides the field trips and our monthly meetings, the students also had to work on an action project. So as a group, they came together to come up with an issue that they felt was important to them, and then also a solution to that problem that they were going to work on over the course of this year. And so their main goal was to reduce plastics in our waterways, which is a very lofty goal to do it, but they came in at such a unique perspective that was really inspirational. They experienced, because of the pandemic, most of them were no longer allowed to use their water fountains. They were closed off because of safety concerns. And so they were not able to refill water bottles. And they noticed the intake or the extra use of plastics because people were bringing in a lot more plastic water bottles since they couldn't refill. And so they came up with the idea of using or trying to get more bottle filling stations. And this works not just in their schools, but in their community. People have a place to fill up water. They don't need to get more plastic bottles out of there. So they have been working towards this goal during this year. And so this is a lot of lessons are learned as you're trying to create this project. So they had to do a lot of research about how much these cost, what they look like, what the steps would be in it. They've set up meetings with local organizations. They've reached out to the counties to see if this is even possible. They also learned the lesson of perseverance, that people don't always respond the first time you reach out, so you have to do it again and ask lots of questions and have your ducks in a row in order to do this. They also, a couple of the students are learning how to write grants. They're trying to get money for this. So fundraising, because these things aren't cheap. So how to raise money and do that. So they've all been working in those different aspects, as well as doing public education. Why is this important? Why do we want to reduce plastics? So every single person in this group has worked towards this goal. And they also learned things don't happen overnight. So we are currently working with the county of, Glenn County, working towards identifying the perfect location. Because again, the kids went out and scouted locations and had a whole list. And so we're just narrowing that down. And hopefully by this summer, our first bottle filling station will be installed here in Glenn County. And it's all because of the work that these YELP students did over the course of this year. So please stay tuned as we keep posting about the completion of this project these students have worked in during this last year. But you didn't come here just to hear from me tonight. So I actually have a couple of the students are actually going to share with you guys a little bit more about what the year has meant to them and things they have learned. So we are going to start with Griffin Lee, as he's going to share with us first.
Hello, everyone. Again, my name is Griffin Lee, and I'm from St. Simons Island, and I'm a junior at Glenn Academy. I've had the pleasure of being in YELP for 2 years, and I really have enjoyed every moment of it. Unfortunately, due to some constraints, I'm not going to be able to participate in YELP next year, but I'm incredibly thankful for the opportunities that YELP has given me while I've been lucky enough to be part of the club. I joined YELP my sophomore year looking for a new extracurricular club that was focused on the environment and promoting positive environmental change for our coast. And YELP has definitely helped me achieve that and more. Now, I'm sure some of you who participated in YELP last year remember it was a little difficult with the COVID pandemic. We weren't able to meet up in person until our very last meeting at Jekyll Island, and our field trips were all virtual. Even with those constraints, though, I know that I personally learned a lot about the Georgia coast. Even the virtual field trip to Gould's Inlet, a place I visit all the time, taught me all about the red knots and how the Georgia coast is an important stop for them on their epic annual now 9,000-mile migration, as well as their relationship with our horseshoe crabs, whose eggs they feed on. And that's just one example of how YELP has helped me better appreciate our coastal ecology. One of my favorite memories from last year, as I'm sure some of you remember, was when Rachel and I made a video with the famous sea turtle costume, informing people on how to better protect nesting sea turtles during the nesting season. This year, of course, we had some great field trips and guest speakers, in addition to learning more about coastal ecology, like when we learned about the living shoreline at Skidaway Island, or when we visited White Oak. We also learned about some of the cultural history of our coast and about the Gullah Geechee people at Butler Island. Truly, YELP has helped me learn a lot more about the Georgia coast and has really grown my appreciation for being so lucky to live here and being able to witness the unique flora and fauna that the Georgia coast is home to. YELP has shown me another side of conservation and being an environmentalist I didn't really understand existed before. And what I mean by this is the advocacy side of conservation. YELP has shown me how important, rewarding, and sometimes challenging advocacy can be. And we've gotten great practice at being advocates ourselves, whether that be making videos dressed up as sea turtles, giving Earth Day presentations, making environmental awareness Instagram posts, organizing cleanup events, or trying to install water bottle refilling stations to reduce plastic pollution. YELP has certainly made me more environmentally self-conscious and an advocate for protecting the natural world. And a lot of what we have done has made me strongly consider a career in the environmental and biological fields. And I certainly want to be an advocate for protecting the Georgia coast for my entire life. So although I'll no longer be an official YELPer, YELP has been a really influential and fun experience for me. And I've really enjoyed getting to know all of you and being able to talk to people who also care about the environment like I do. I truly value some of the friendships I've made in YELP. I will certainly take what I learned from YELP, leadership, sharing my passion, and an appreciation for the Georgia coast, and use it in my future endeavors. I hope to continue to help preserve our precious coast throughout my entire life. YELP is certainly something I've been thankful for participating in, and thank you all for making it so special. I'll miss y'all. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Griffin. You will also be greatly missed, but I know you're not going too far. Thank you for those kind words. Taylor Buffington, would you like to share next?
Sure, I'd be happy to. As you know, my name is Taylor Buffington, and I think that the most important thing is friendship. And of course, you all know the saying, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. It's something I think as teens we all do unintentionally sometimes as we try to get through high school and its drama. And I mean, it can be hard to remember that high school isn't all there is to social life and that we can make new connections with other people we don't see every day. I know I myself am a pretty quiet-natured person at school, not exactly a group project first choice, if you know what I mean. But with YELP, I've been able to definitely pry off that stiff school shell and embrace my passions and interests without fear of rejection or exclusion. In fact, I think a very special memory with YELP for me is the very first trip we went on, our first in-person orientation. And I was really surprised by how easily I just opened up. I'd found common ground with everybody here, and I made jokes. I talked about future goals, things we look forward to. A lot of us even share some extracurriculars, and there was this pleasant, warm feeling as I left, and some excitement for the next meeting. YELP's really connected me to some people I'd never thought to talk to, older and younger. I have made some excellent new best friends because of YELP, and we get to work on things that we're all interested in. So we get to stay connected, even with COVID and all the crazy Zoom stuff. I think it's honestly the friendship coupled with the love of the environment that has made YELP the best experience for all of us. After all, there's nothing better than indulging with passion projects with your friends by your side, right?
Thank you, Taylor. And it's been a pleasure getting to know you two over the last year. Kate, would you like to go next?
So again, I'm Kate Bosler. I'm in 11th grade and I go to Islands High School. And I joined YELP my sophomore year after it was suggested to me from a teacher. And I quickly fell in love with the format and the informational meetings. Every meeting, Miss Tuning made it a point to invite influential individuals from a variety of fields, including ornithology and marine biology. These professionals expanded my worldview, and YELP has connected me to numerous opportunities that I would never have been able to be a part of. These professionals also expanded on a lot of the research projects that they were doing individually and invited us to come observe and participate in the projects alongside of them. This year at YELP has provided me with invaluable opportunities as we were actually able to connect in person this year to complete a variety of projects, as Ms. Tuning mentioned with the water bottles, and to attend numerous field trips to Sapelo, Butler, Okefenokee. I made a lot of new friends this year. I learned a lot of information about those different plantations and islands, and I was even able to give my own suggestions on ways to improve our habitat and ecosystem. As I mentioned earlier, a moment that really resonated with me was bike riding in Sapelo Island and just taking in the peaceful and serene environment that I would like to further implement into all of our other barrier islands as consumerism is kind of taking away from the natural beauty of our coastline. Sapelo Island also had this really cool mansion on it that the different rooms, especially the circus room, they were very unique and definitely interesting. I had so much fun bowling and playing ping pong as it allowed me to really connect with the boys and Taylor that went on that trip. And I lastly just can't wait for next year's session.
Thank you, Kate, for sharing your reflections from this last 2 years. And then our last student presenter tonight is Rachel.
Hi. Thank you, Miss Stephanie. So hi everyone. As Miss Stephanie said, my name is Rachel Walters, and I am a senior at Glen Academy. I would just like to say thank you so much for letting me speak tonight. I was really excited for this graduation and to see everyone again. So hi. As you all know, 100 Miles has been such a large part of my high school experience, from meeting scientists to creating projects and going on field trips. It has truly been a great program that I have learned and grown from. And because of this, I wanted to share a few of my favorite memories that I had with you tonight. So I have had the opportunity to be in YELP both my junior and senior year. However, my favorite project was when our team created educational videos. Griffin has already talked about this, but I'll say it again. So our goal last year was to create a project on protecting Georgia's beaches and sea life. And to do that, we made videos encouraging, others to protect it as well. The really fun thing is that we wanted to make our videos interesting, so we dressed up as sea turtles when we filmed. And Griff and I were definitely the stars in the film, and So it was really fun. Our production was focused on teaching school children, which I thought was really neat to engage the younger audience because they smiled and laughed while they were learning on how to protect our coast. The other memory that that really impacted me was the field trip when our team went to Chemours last January. And that field trip was amazing because it really made me decide what I wanted to be when I grew up. So while learning about the mine, I realized how important it is to have environmental engineers to design ways to reduce, environmental issues from industrial facilities. And, I just saw how those environmental engineers play such a vital role in protecting Jessup's environment. And, I just wanted to, follow in their footsteps and direction. Because of this, I have decided to attend the University of Georgia and to earn a degree in environmental engineering, which I hope to hopefully later on, I guess have a job in helping people get cleaner water or, being a project waste manager or something like that. But nonetheless, I could not have done this without 100 miles. During my 2 years, I have met 20 really, really talented students who all became my close friends. And together we set goals to protect our environment, and we accomplished them. And it really just goes to show how YELP and 100 miles, forms these students and molds them into what we can become. So again, I would just like to say, thank you, Miss Megan and Miss Stephanie, for being here for me and helping me, follow my passions. So thank you.
Oh, well, thank you, all four of you, for sharing those memories and those stories, and also your kind words to us. Megan already said it. I said that she has the best job, but I might have to fight her for it because I'm the one who gets to spend so much time with you guys, and you guys are just so encouraging, and your energy and passions are just contagious. So thank you. And so no graduation would be complete without some superlatives or awards. So I'm going to share some superlatives about our YELP students and some a little more stories about our last year together. Well, to start it off with, most likely to have a great idea, 100% goes to Eva this year. So we talked about these bottle filling stations. This was the idea of Eva. When we were talking about plastics and she came up with this idea, I was just so enamored that she was able to come up with this idea, and everybody on the team was 100% behind her and has been working hard to complete this vision that she had. So most likely to have a great idea. Next up is most likely to volunteer. So Lily Kate, all year, whenever we've done any sort of parts of our project or the next steps, Eva has been willing to volunteer her time and her energies and learn, especially when it came to helping write the grant. She jumped on that team when extra extra hands were needed, even though, none of us really, especially at that age, know how to do that. And so she was right there to help out. Next, sorry about the picture, Taylor, is to go on an adventure is Taylor. Taylor also wins the award for the only YELP student that was able to make every single field trip. These students that apply for this program are highly motivated, busy students. And so to organize their schedules to attend every single event and part of this project is really difficult. And so the fact that Taylor has gone on every adventure with me this year has been really special. So, and I'm sorry, Taylor, but I love this picture. Most likely to change the world goes to Griffin. If you've not already heard tonight, he's a very inspiring student between all the mix of activities he does and how many different things he does so well. I know even though he won't be part of the official YELPers next year, he will always be a YELPer. And so we can't wait to see what he does next. Kylie wins most likely to make you smile. Kylie is just a ball of positive, fun energy. It's always a pleasure to have her on a field trip or in a meeting because she is always going to be full energy and ask great questions. And so again, she just makes me smile. Next up is most likely to get dirty. We didn't really talk about it much, but in March, these students helped promote and hosted a Keep Golden Isles Beautiful Marsh Madness event. And so we cleaned up the causeway by East Beach, and actually because they did such a fabulous job recruiting people to attend, we had over 50 people come to this cleanup. So we cleaned up the beach, the parking lot, the roads, the neighborhood, we cleaned it up all. But Caden was the most determined to get a certain amount of plastics out of the marsh, and he got full on muddy. And so his passion really showed that he wasn't going to let anything miss our grass that day. Next up is most likely to make friends with a wild animal, Mary Whitney, who unfortunately is not here this evening. She's the only YELP student who couldn't attend. She was the most willing and able when we were at White Oak to meet and greet all of these new wild animals that were there. And so this was referenced a couple times, and now you get to see a visual of this. Most likely to show up in a costume goes to Rachel. So last year, one of the major projects that they worked on was public education about reducing the impacts to our wild animals here on our coastline, sea turtles being one of the most iconic. And so Rachel donned a turtle costume and made an educational video, but did not just wear it for that one time. So we have them make videos to introduce themselves to the other students. And Rachel donned this outfit and made another video. And so most likely to show up on costume, hands down, goes to Rachel. Next up is Miss Annie. She is most likely to create change. She has been a part of YELP for the last 2 years, and she has shown her passions and her willingness for change and to make things happen when she sees that there's an issue. So really been proud of her and seeing her take those initiatives, and know she'll continue that on as she goes off to college in the fall. Most likely to be prepared for class is Kate. You all heard Kate speak again this evening. She would always come to any class more prepared than I ever expected. I would always send them emails about who was coming and some background information, but she would come back, had read it all, and always had the most intelligent questions to ask our guests for that evening. And so Kate definitely gets most prepared for class. And then our last but not least is our best storyteller. Mary might have been quiet during some of our meetings, but once we got on our road trips, on our field trips in the van, I was more entertained by the stories that came out of this girl's mouth. She has great ability to tell wonderful stories as well as entertain her other YELPers. So thank you, Mary, for entertaining me as well as the rest of us this year. I also next want to take the opportunity to congratulate our graduating seniors. We have 4 seniors that were a part of YELP this last year, and I just want to give them extra acknowledgement because not only are they graduating from YELP, but they're also graduating for high school. So Rachel will be attending the University of Georgia in the fall. Caden will be attending Elon University. Annie is going down to Tulane, and Kylie is headed off to Georgia College, and I just learned tonight part of the honors program as well. So we're all so proud of you guys, and congratulations on completing your 4 years of high school. And I just can't wait to see what a couple of you do next in life. So now that you have heard a little bit more about this program this year, I want to give you guys the opportunity, our attendees tonight, if you have any extra questions for these students or you want to know anything more about some things they have shared tonight, I want to give us a couple of minutes to actually be able to ask those questions to our students tonight. At the bottom of your screen, there is a Q&A spot. So if you have a question you would like to ask them, you can do that. And I'm going to get it kicked off with a question. Annie, I'm going to call on you first if you want to answer this question. What skills did you get from YELP that you'll think will help you the most as you head off to college in the fall?
I think mostly learning how to open up more quickly with people I didn't know, and group work a lot and communication, because since most of us lived in Glenn County and I lived in Savannah, I was a lot further, but communicating was a big part of this whole process. So I think that will carry with me to college.
Excellent. Hayden, do you mind answering that same question? What skills do you think you've gotten over this last year that'll help most prepare you for college? Hayden, can you hear? If you're answering, I can't hear you.
There we go.
There you are.
I think it's similar to Annie's answer, just opening up more to people and being more sociable, I guess.
Okay, excellent. Rachel, did you want to answer that question too? Since you're in, I don't want to leave anyone out.
I feel like the most important thing that I've learned is like seeing where other people come from and their point of view. You know, when we're talking to you know, politicians, you kind of need to hear where they're coming from as well, and to like understand that they also have other constituents other than yourself. So, you know, speaking to them in a certain way to where they understand where you're coming from, while also providing them the, you know, I guess the best chance of them, like, you know, understanding you is what I've learned.
And Kylie, as my last graduating senior, do you want to share what you'll take with you?
I'd say I will probably, like everyone else said, the communication skills, but also like research skills, and just kind of taking the time to like dig deep into whatever we've needed, like information wise, and making sure like all that, like fact checking, and just, yeah, putting my time into something. Definitely helped with my time management as well. So those would be the two.
That's great. I'm actually going to ask all of my students to turn back on their camera so we can see your faces as I ask the next couple of questions. So another question that just came in is, what advice would you give any future YELPers? Does anyone have, Taylor? Do you want to answer that one?
Yeah, sure, I'll take that one. I definitely think that you shouldn't be afraid to speak out your own ideas and get to know people, because we're all super friendly here and we're not going to like be mean to you for petty things like you don't like the color blue or something. I think it's super important to be open and outgoing and just kind of be yourself.
Excellent. Does anyone else want to answer that question?
I'll answer. I think something like advice wise, I had it in my head and I kind of forgot what it was. I'm sorry.
It's fine. I'm putting you guys on the spot with this because I also got a question. What is your favorite thing about the Georgia coast? Lily Kate, do you want to tell me what your favorite thing about the Georgia coast is?
I'm sure. It's kind of hard to narrow down. I love, and this sounds kind of basic, but I love just like the sunsets on the marshes, like the, I guess, golden hour is what you'd call it. Just because it's so unique to the Georgia coast, and being able to see that anywhere we go is kind of really cool.
Mary, do you want to share your favorite thing about the Georgia coast?
Kind of adding on to what Lily Kate said with the uniqueness. When I applied for this group, I had just moved here from New Jersey, and so I wasn't very educated on the environment specific to Georgia. And YELP really showed me the beautiful uniqueness of this coast and just how different it is to anywhere else.
That's a great answer. Anyone else want to share? Eva?
Yes,
Oh,
I will.
sorry.
Well, should I go ahead?
Yeah, go ahead, Griffin. Sorry.
My favorite part of the Georgia coast is our salt marshes in general. I spend a lot of time kayaking and paddleboarding and boating in our salt marshes. And Georgia actually has 1/3 of all the salt marshes on the East Coast. And so just exploring that and fishing and all that in the marsh is really pretty too. So that's my favorite part.
Thank you. Eva, did you want to answer or do you want me to ask you the next question?
I can answer. I think my favorite thing about the Georgia coast is I think it's really hard to choose, but I think it might be especially just the amount of different amount of biodiversity that we have and the amount of animals that you see. And also just like in terms of just the habitat itself, if you go to the beach, it's never the same twice. So, which I think is really interesting. And yeah.
That's really true. We got a question about your expectations prior to joining YELP. Did your expectations before you joined YELP actually live up to it after this last year? It's a more introspective question. Is anyone ready to answer that? Taylor?
I can answer it.
Okay. Oh, Kate, go for it.
I think that my expectations definitely did live up to the reality to it. I think that you guys did a really good job with formatting the application with a lot of the expectations that not only like you guys expected from us, such as like leading our own project and being able to work as a team. And then I think that I thought this opportunity was definitely going to be a lot of meeting with professionals and going on field trips. So it's definitely lived up to all the expectations.
Anyone else want to add?
I had like a really great experience. I think I expected it, I guess, to be less, not relaxed, I guess, like socially. I was kind of nervous about that. So for everybody to be like kind of feel more like a family and go on fun trips and just talk and, be normal kids and all that stuff. Definitely lived up past my expectations.
Yeah, thanks. Taylor, did you want to add to that?
Oh, no. Kylie summed it up pretty perfectly.
Perfect. Excellent. One of the other questions we got that's a little bit different. Sorry, I lost it. Okay. Because it says that you've expressed your love for the coast and the environment, but what have you learned? What can you learn to help encourage others to learn more and act? So have you learned how to encourage others or how to share that to help other people act to protect it? Sorry, I bumbled that.
I think I could say this one. So last year, again, Griffin and I made those educational videos, which taught others, there maybe the right ways or, steps where they could take action to protect our coast. And I think in addition to that, I think YELP taught us how to be better leaders. Within our own school, a lot of our YELP students are a part of environmental clubs. I know Lily Kate is a part of the Glen Academy Environmental Club, as well as I am. And we definitely do hold a lot of leadership in those, in those clubs and, encourage others to get involved. Griffin, just recently, we had a environmental cleanup at East Beach, which is on St. Simon's Island. And Griffin texted all of his friends to come out and to come clean up the coast with him. And he probably got at least 30 kids to come out there on that same day. So just doing, those things and reaching out to people who and who, you would think that would help. And, it works out. So I think that's it.
Anyone else learn a lesson about how to encourage other people to participate in action this year? I know that's a harder one.
I think definitely showing people that everything is interconnected. So yes, you threw this plastic ring in the river, but where does it go? How does that affect you in, say, 10 or 20 years when it breaks down in microplastics and you eat that in your shrimp? You have to educate and understand that everything has a consequence, or it affects something. It's never singular.
Another question we got, and Taylor, since you're on, I'm going to have you answer it first, but did any of the mentors or anything you learned this year help point you in a new direction or where you want to go career-wise?
I definitely think there were a lot of different professionals, and I got to see a lot of different perspectives of what conservation and dealing with the environment, I guess, kind of deals with. So I think personally for me, Okefenokee and talking to the park ranger, Miss Becky, that was definitely an eye-opening experience for the type of conservation that goes on with nationally, I guess, held like state parks and land.
Yeah. Eva, did you have a answer to that question too?
Yes. Being able to be with all of the people who we got to interact with has really strengthened kind of the idea that I do want to do something with conservation when I'm old enough to pick a profession. And so that was very helpful to kind of meet all those people who devote their lives to just the environment, so that I can kind of look at them and kind of like base my decisions kind of based on what I've seen in their stories. So I wouldn't be surprised if I went into a field where I can talk and share things like they shared with us.
Excellent. Thank you so much for sharing. I have one more question. So, and it's hard, I know, especially for adults, and even more so when you're younger. But what advice would you give someone who's afraid or unsure how to be an advocate? How would you encourage people? Annie, I might pick on you. I haven't picked on you in a while.
I would say just to ask for help, mostly. Like, speak to your other friends about it and ask for their help and support. Because I never really liked talking.
Mm-hmm.
But just having the support and knowing everyone's there for you, that's what helped me.
Excellent. Mary, did you want to add to that?
I would say that, advocacy doesn't have to be scary or nerve-wracking, and it can actually be fun. And so if someone has, anxiety about talking a lot, it can be a fun thing that they can do with friends and groups like YELP.
Well, great. Well, thank you, all of you, for answering all these questions and letting me put you on the spot and sharing with all of our attendees tonight. I really appreciate hearing your answers. I do want to thank a lot of people before we end our graduation this evening. I do want to thank all of the parents of the students who have been part of YELP this year. I really appreciate you allowing them to participate, me taking away those Wednesday evenings from family time, and then also all those Saturdays this year where I stole them away to go on our field trips. I really appreciate your support on allowing your kids to participate in this program. I also want to thank our mentors and our partners to help put on a lot of these programming and sharing their knowledge and their passions with these students, because obviously it's rubbed off as we heard from them this evening. A big thanks to our sponsors for helping support this program, because the best part about YELP is that it's at no cost to these students. All these field trips, all the food, all the supplies come because of the sponsors to this program. And again, thank you to Chemours, Adelphia Foundation, Gulfstream, the Phoenix Fund, Coastal Butler Islands Foundation, MK Pentecost Ecology Fund for all of that. But the biggest thank you I want to give is to my YELP students. You make me emotional. You inspire me every day. You encourage me in what I do, that I'm doing that this is the right career for me, because your passions, your jokes, your stories, all that you do really helps make it more worthwhile. That I've enjoyed every moment with you guys. I've learned just as much from you guys this year as you've learned from us. And the future is looking bright because you guys are our future leaders. I'm sorry. Make me emotional. The future is bright with you guys taking the lead, because the passions and the ideas are just so inspiring. And you will always be YELPers, even if you are not with us next year as you go off to college or you have other responsibilities next year, you are always YELPers. So you'll always be part of this family. And I do encourage those of you attending tonight to keep following what these students are doing. They do have their own Instagram page at OHM_YELP. You can keep following. It will be updating with our projects. And as we accept our next class of YELP, and actually a couple of these students will probably be returning next year. So to keep up on what these kids are doing and how their futures go. So I thank you all for joining us tonight. And thank you YELP kids for inspiring me. All have a great evening and congratulations.